Yeah, so basically, City Tech, you know, after Patrick got like Offensive Player of the Year, we got invited to NECVA. We were this club only 2 years in. It was us and DeUval, which is a good program back then. I started building this reputation with the guy who could do more with less, right? So Baruch College was ranked number 7, like in the worst conference in the NCAA, right? 4 years later, we're CUNY champions, and then a few years after that, they're in the Final Four, right? City College didn't have a winning program in almost a decade. I was there, first winning program, best conference record in a decade, invitation to Northeastern Collegiate. More with less. My best player got hurt. My second best player got hurt. So it was Hunter High School, didn't win a championship in 19 years. We had a great senior year campaign, 38-1 record, PSAL champs. We got ranked in the nation's top 50 for the first time. People started to notice us. Madison Square Garden gave me Coach of the Year for that, so MSG varsity. So I started taking these programs that nobody would touch, because as a coach, you know your brand is important, especially in California. It's like, if he's a good coach, why is he coaching them? You know, why isn't he coaching SCVC? Why isn't he coaching this? And I'm so glad we're doing this podcast, because I have a message for those people. And the message is, you can be an average mechanic in a room full of Ferraris, okay? Or you can be a great mechanic turning Ford Pintos into Tauruses. You know, I'm not saying that neither of them aren't or are real coaches, but don't you dare cast aspersions on someone that chooses to actually do some real work. And I'll phrase it, you know, it's hell with it. I'll phrase it like that. You know, there are guys in California and New York, they're out there doing real work. All right. And when someone says real work, they know I'm not insulting the guys that have the good teams, because you have to coach those teams too. Right. But we both know that there are some programs where you just need to put someone there and make sure the team don't beat themselves. All right.
And there's a huge difference, and right? And that mentality, that underdog mentality that you came up with, I think you can see it come out in your coaching, and that it's a beautiful thing, because you really can do a lot for a kid, you know, that doesn't walk in, you know, as the star, or thinking that they're going to be, you know, that they're going to be great right when you start, right? And there's a lot of that these days, you know, through instant gratification culture, through not for certain kids not feeling included or confident when they walk in the gym, and a coach can absolutely turn that around.
100%. And that's where all of this comes full circle. The best thing about a coach is you look a kid in the eye and you tell a kid the same thing I learned in my entire life. Never let anybody tell you can't do something. Never let anybody tell you can't do something. All right? I went from a guy who's the projects to wild Flatbush to homeless to failing every class to like auditioning and getting in the Marymount Manhattan, the second ranked program in the country, graduating, you know, with a 3.71 GPA, to coaching NCAA, and a lot of those kids are, you know, have played or are still playing in Europe and leagues in Finland and Italy. I look a kid in the eye, no matter where. And Evolution's a very good program. It's Duncan Avery, God bless him. Look a kid in the eye and tell him, and this kid's like, he's 5'9", but wants to play outside hitter. Now, you could be a coach and tell him, you're not tall enough. Don't waste your time. Use all this time right now, be a libero. You know, you're just going to be disappointed. That's not what you tell that kid. If you tell that kid that, you fail him as a coach. You tell him, look, I'll be honest with you. There are not too many 5'9" outside hitters out there, okay? Most people will want you to be a libero. But if you want to be an outside hitter, this is what you have to do with your jump training. This is what you have to do this. This is what you have to do in your first serve. And mentally, you know you have to be the best serve receiver that rivals the libero if you're going to be on that whatever. Look at Riley Salmon. 6 foot, graciously listed at 6'1", we both called bullshit. Olympic gold medalist. In fact, they don't even get to the semifinals if he doesn't do what he did against Serbia and Montenegro. And everybody who's like these old heads or these volleyball purists, you know what I'm talking about. That man got 4 shots, 2 of them just power dinks. 6'1", right? East Coast guy, Elvis Rodriguez, 5'9", played with Creole, won men's open nationals, got all tournament team, first team, you know? So you don't tell a kid they can't do something, but you, at the same time, you be totally candid with the level of the road that he has ahead of him. You know, I'm a kid from Brooklyn. What the hell am I doing coaching in California? I'm from a basketball and football culture, right? You got 8 high schools in New York that probably represent a chunk of the NBA's talent. Christ the King, you know, Stephon Marbury went to Lincoln, like Jamal Mashburn, Carmelo Anthony from Red Hook, so then Hollis, Queens, I guess, but never. I think the point I was trying to make was, 1, never tell a kid that they can't do something, and 2, the people you look up to don't have to have superpowers. The people you look up to, like, for example, like, you're watching X-Men, you're watching Superman. Okay, Superman, he's flying, right? He could fly in outer space. Aquaman, right? He could talk to the fishes and breathe underwater, right? That guy doesn't have to be a hero. Bruce Willis, like that character from Die Hard, who doesn't have any superpowers, that's just trying to do what he can to stay alive to see with his family. When someone normal like that does something to defy the odds, that was not given chance after chance after chance. Maybe nothing wrong with looking up to someone like that either, because they have a story to tell, and they you know, and the impossible path that they have. God, I hate saying it this way, but if they can do it, you can do it. I could have said it all this time and just said it that way, but it's very, very important that I allow myself to be vulnerable enough to talk about these things, because someone out there is going through something as bad as I went through. And some even worse, where like, you don't even have it that bad. And some that are not as bad, it's like, you know what? You know, he's doing it. You know, when I moved to California, Wendy, I basically had to start over. I had 19 years coaching under my belt, NCAA, high school, you know. Coaching awards here and there, but, you know, coaches, we don't take credit. We only take the blame, right? If you win, it's the players. If you lose, it's the coaches. But I moved here in 2016. And didn't know anybody. So what I did was this is weird. You were going to say.
You showed up on the scene. I want to hear about how you showed up on the scene, because we met in 2018.
Right.
I think.
So what I did was I bought a camera, and I went to the beach, and I knew enough beach volleyball because Central Park is where, like, the guys who play in Long Beach and Belmar that live in the city, that's where they trained when they didn't want to go. You know, they go to the beach the day before, familiarize themselves with the setting, but they would use me. I was an indoor player, you know, and I would use beach to cross-train for indoor to help my blocking and digging. But so we would use each other. They'd use me because I had the indoor block. You know, I'm 6'1", but my wingspan's 6'8". And so I knew about the beach. So I bought a camera, and I just started talking about volleyball. And I said a ton of analytical things that made complete sense to everybody. And I said a ton of dumb things where everybody's like, who is this guy? How do we cancel him? Let's make sure this one is over before it even started. But there was something about just betting on myself and winning. Like, I told my wife, I'm like, I know what I'm doing. She's like, what? And I'm like, I don't know, but I know what I'm doing. You know, I can't explain. I just know what I'm doing. Just, you know, whatever. So what happens is you get a break here. You know, I mean, we both know I built everything that I have, but nobody, you need a break from someone. So I have to cite 3 very important people. Daron Forbes, who's the director of the Endless Summer Beach Volleyball Club. I'm no longer with her, but, and she's also the founder of Beach Volleyball National Events, which does all of their showcases. So I met her on the beach, and she talked up volleyball. We're sitting in beach chairs together, and she's like, you have a resume? I'm like, sure. She's like, cool, come see me tomorrow. So, and I want to finish her story in a minute. The second person is John Mayer, who I met at SOB, South of the Border Vacations, and my wife went there for the tournaments. I went there for exhibition, indoor versus the pros. So I got to play with him one set and got to play against him for one set with Ty Tremblay and Mark Cairns. Ty has terrific hands. I mean, I got worked, of course, but they'll see a play or two where I'm like, my lefty and my wrist away looks a lot like John's. Bam, bam. In fact, he bounced the ball in front of me, and everyone was like laughing. But one play later, John floated by, Karen's floated by, and I just turned my wrist and I bounced one back at him. And everyone just shut up. And John just goes, he's very humble. And I lost 15-5 or something, but that wasn't the point. Like, everyone knew I could play. Yeah. I'm not going to beat Karen's and John. I'm not, I didn't even beat Ty with John. I was the odd man, the odd man out. They didn't call my hands. I'm an indoor setter.
Yeah,
my release is fast, but it didn't spin. So John Mayer. The third one is Duncan Avery. I was visiting high schools. I visited Miracosta. They were already set up with their coaching situation, and they were very cocky, but I will say that their cockiness came from unconditional love for volleyball, which is tolerable. Okay, so we're cool. So just because I call someone cocky doesn't mean I don't like you. It's a turn off to some people, but not to me, not all the time. Then I visited Redondo because Avery was the coach there, and then he said, "No, we're all set with this situation." A week later, he calls me and says, "You're interested in one of my teams, Evolution?" And I said, "16s. I'll do 16s because that's where my strengths psychologically." Presenting, molding these minds, right? Because that's where my strengths play to their needs. I can answer, is there life after volleyball? I can answer, am I too tall or too short to play this position? I can, that point, 16 years old, where these kids haven't figured out where they're going to fit if they want to do this for the future, is where I thought I could help them, and I did. They're ranked 41st in California, and we went to nationals. We got as high as 5th. We took down Cincy Attack, and we took their 5 spot, and we ended up finishing 13, but that was, for that program, I was only 4 years old. That was pretty cool. John Mayer, when I was with him, I was his assistant at LMU, 2018, but when I was with him, they were 6 and 13. The season I was with him, we were 22 and 14. And I left before 2019, they won WCCs, and they just won again. So I'm in large part of helping these programs. Endless Summer, beach volleyball, we went from a program where everyone knew Daron, but a year later, we led the nation in recruitments per capita. We as of today, we have 3 girls going to SC next year. We have 1 going to UCLA. We have 2 going to Long Beach. One's already at Long Beach. One's going. 1 girl's going to Arizona, and 1 girl's going to Grand Canyon. So, pretty good. So, and that I don't want to toot my own horn, but we let's just call it a shitload of coincidences that happened to happen when I was there. Or maybe I'm just Forrest Gumping it.